Welcome to another episode of Comics and Sweet Tea, you guys. Awesome to be back with you. Hope you had a great week. I know it's hump day uh, around the world, except, except overseas. They're already pretty much a day ahead of us. So, anyway, they've already got through their hump day, but we haven't. Well, technically, I'm just all over the place. But anyway, guys, the channel continues to grow. Thank you so much. Just continue to spread the word. Hey, be a part of the conversation. Jump in chat, ask your questions, leave your comments if you like us, if you hate us. Hopefully, you like us. But anyway, leave, leave a comment. Tell us, what you might like to see in upcoming episodes or anyway, if you got a question for the artist and you don't catch this live, be sure drop it in the comments and we'll get an answer back to you. That's a guarantee. Um, anyway, without further ado, got an awesome creator tonight, Stephen Yu. Man, I can't wait to talk to this guy. But anyway, we're going to jump right into it right now. Stephen, welcome to the show. So glad you answered me, man. I've been watching your work from afar and just loving what you're doing. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I can't complain. Life is good, man.
Yeah, I know you said our time is limited. You're preparing for a big show, correct?
Yeah, I got Asian Invasion coming up this weekend, 21st, 22nd. It's a really cool art show featuring a handful of Asian American, very talented illustrators and comic book creators. And this thing has been going on for the past, 2 years now, starting in SoCal,
Okay.
now in NorCal. And it's really awesome. So, yeah, it'll be a 2-day event in Dublin, California at King Kong Comics, and please show up because we love the support.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So te- tell me about Joan. I know you finished up the campaign on Indiegogo,
Mhm.
which I can't remember what they call theirs when it's still going after it's actually funded. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Can you?
The independent.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
anyway, so I'm going to get the link.
Go.
I'm lazy and I'm pathetic, and I can't get that in there. But anyway, we will have this in the link in the description later on, you guys. So be sure I will have made it easy for you. I apologize I didn't get it so far, but I will have that because I jumped on this thing too, you guys, because this book looks absolutely incredible. 2 issues in, and he's got a lot of plans for this thing. So there you go. There it is. So Stephen, lay it out for us, man. Tell us
Yeah.
tell us about Joan.
So the short premise is Joan of Arc is resurrected from the dead, and she is tasked with this revenge mission to fight against corrupt monarchs and evil sorcerers,
Wow.
complete with the powers of immortality and modern military weapons, which she is enchanted and blessed with infinite ammo to take them on. So that's the premise. The Someone's trying to ask me, like, explain what the style is. It's almost as if Kill Bill, Inglorious Bastards, and all of the spirit of 80s, 90s action films were like fused together. And so that's the premise of it. And a lot of it came from the fact that it's funny. I I didn't really have an attachment to the history, actual real history of Joan of Arc. I just thought it would be a really cool character for the story. But really, it just came from my time in. I was storyboarding, and I respect the field, but I don't know, there's something about it where it's just when I was in that field, I just didn't feel like I was me. Um, and at some point, I remember 2018, my father passed away, and then COVID happened like the next thing was COVID, and it really I
Wow.
had to make that decision. It was just like, are you gonna stay like trying to go down this route of being a storyboard artist, working on other people's project, or do you pick this path, which is like it's unknown, it's unclear, but at the end of the day, you know that you made your own stories. And so I chose that path, and and now we're like what 7 years in, and that's what I've been doing.
Wow, man. That's an incredible story.
Thank you.
Incredible. And so sorry for your loss, Stephen. I know we were talking, a little bit about that back in studio before we started the show. Um, Looking into that stuff, you said you started researching your heritage. Is that kind of what sprung some of these ideas, or were
A
these
little bit.
stories kind of always there, just under
Um,
the surface, waiting to be jumped on? And
yeah, I
and
mean, yeah, it's interesting because like I do think about it a lot. It's like, where did Joan really come from? And you know what it is it came from this want of nostalgia. Like I know that major corporations now, that's kind of like their thing now, right? I mean, how
right,
many
right.
Batman movies are we gonna get, right? And all that. And for me, my nostalgia is 19 like the late 80s and the early 1990s. And it was a different kind of nostalgia because I noticed that there's a lot of push for these cartoons and comics, which is great because that's part of my childhood. But the real part of my childhood I remember was I was 14 years old. I had this weird stomach problem, which we didn't know what it was. It was just real bad inflammation. And I missed the majority of eighth grade because of the
Oh
stomach
wow.
issue. Yeah. And what I do remember is my stomach would hurt so bad that I would wake up usually around 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning. And I had one of those old, you must have had it too, which is like the VHS TV combination.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
yeah. And the only thing that would put me to sleep was like leaving the TV on. So I would wake up and the TV was still on. And I remember John Woo's Hard Boiled was
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was a great one. And it was just they were interviewing at that time Quentin Tarantino because Tarantino talked a lot about Hong Kong movies influencing him. And I just remember going like, "What is this?" And they never showed the whole thing. They showed you clips of the action,
Right.
and then I was just like, "Whoa!" And it was in that era. I remember a lot more Hong Kong stuff was coming over, probably due to the fact that Hong Kong was being turned over to China soon. So I do remember it was like that era of Hong Kong cinema was really, really popular. And my dad would take me to these Chinese video stores where we would rent, John Woo's movies. Holy crap, I didn't realize how violent they were. But my dad was like, yeah, whatever. I know we're here
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh man, I fell in love with the movies. I don't know, there was something about it. It was like it was like the action was really, really good, but the heroes were so tortured.
Right.
I mean, it was so like gritty, and I was just like, I love heroes that have existential dilemmas. I love that. And then you have these really deep themes, and RoboCop had them. The Terminator 2 movie had it, and I was like, okay, action combined with these like philosophical themes, I love it. And so that's what I wanted to do with Jones. Like, how do I take the my childhood memories and like just like put it into this duck press format?
Yeah.
Um, so I would definitely say American action movies played a big part, but the other factor was like Hong Kong movies also play a big part in it. So when like looking through Joan, you're going to be like, oh, wow, okay, this is like one giant homage to like that era of cinema. We didn't have capes and cows as much, right? We had
No,
Batman
no.
movies, Superman movies, but then really what we had most of the time was like gangster films and action films. So that was the
Yeah,
90s.
late '80s and early '90s was huge. I mean, that was the leading genre at the time. I mean,
Yeah.
our heroes, if you want to call them that, was Sylvester Stallone and Arnold
Hmm.
Schwarzenegger. You know, they
Yeah.
both topped the box office during those years.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's definitely a hunger for that, and you
Mhm.
see it returning to cinema now. And
Yeah.
the support that these movies are getting, like John Wick, perfect example.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, it's basically taking, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's like the best of both worlds. You're getting the ultra violence and stuff from the Eastern culture
Yeah.
and mixing it with the West, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate um what a lot of those like David Leitch and I keep forgetting that stunt crew, like it was 8711, but I really appreciate all the movies they've been coming out with. I personally was not a big fan of Mr. Nobody, but I did love the action. I was just like, oh, I was having fun watching
I still haven't seen
it.
that one. I've heard a lot of good
Oh, okay.
things about it, though. Yeah,
Yeah,
nobody.
yeah,
I remember hearing about that. I've had several people tell me, "Look, man, you got
yeah,
to see Nobody." Yeah,
yeah. It's what I enjoy was that it's they come from a very simple premise, and then they like just like let the story kind of breathe. And I wish the movie was like, can focus a little more on him, and uh because it just felt like they just padded in with a lot more action, which is fine because that's an action movie. But
right.
I wish it was a little bit longer so you knew about the character.
A little more
So
character driven. Yeah, I
yeah,
got you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But otherwise, it was a fun movie, and it just delivered what it wanted to deliver. So
gotcha. So tell me this: if you could turn, now you mentioned that about Joan. If you could, if Netflix or Amazon come knocking at the door and said, "Hey, we want to do an animated piece with this, or we want to make a major motion picture live action, or we want to do a series," where would you like Joan to go?
oh man, wow. Um, Netflix has been making some cool stuff. Especially in Asia. Like I noticed. Oh man, there's one I want to watch. It's I think it's called like Martial Arts Cop or something, but it's like a Korean action film where like this martial artist is basically doing what it looks like the job of what cops would do. So
Oh
he like
wow!
hunts people. Yeah, he hunts people down who I guess they violate their what is it, house arrest, and they're on the run, and he just goes and he just beats the crap out of them. And it has that quirkiness that I love in Korean action cinema.
Right.
So Netflix would be really cool. I could see that. I've been asked before. I was on Distance Nerding, and they asked me like, "Who would you envision playing Joan?" I was like, "Man, I don't know. Joan's like, I feel like stuck in this like time capsule. It would have been Winona Ryder, like in 1994. It would
Oh
have been Winona.
wow! Yeah, that
Thing.
could be really interesting. Yeah.
Yep. And then there's a secondary character, Apollo, uh, who is very much a Samuel L. Jackson from Die Hard with a Vengeance. And I was like, man, if Samuel L. Jackson could play Apollo, that would be cool. King Henry would probably be like Tom Sizemore. I could see that, you know. Um,
I could see it almost. Do you remember that? It had Samuel Jackson,
mhm.
Gina Davis, "The Long Kiss Goodnight." I think it
A Long
was.
Kiss Goodnight. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Could you
yeah.
see
That was a
Joan
good
as
movie.
something like that?
I
That was
could.
kind of that quirky type action movie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man. It. It's so funny. It was like I still feel like A Long Kiss Goodnight came out yesterday because
That was
now you
such
have
a good
Atomic.
movie.
Oh,
Highly
it's so
underrated.
good, man. Yeah, and it was like now you have Atomic Blonde, and then you
Yeah.
had like
Yeah.
Mr. Nobody. You have these films coming out, and it was like they feel like they're like the predecessors of like A Long Kiss Goodnight. And I was like, man, if they
Yeah.
could continue these lines of like fun, quirky action movies, I mean, it would be really awesome. They should be a genre in their own within the action
Oh,
category.
definitely. Definitely. And I don't know if you've heard, it looks like we're going to get John Wick 5. It's on the
Wow.
schedule.
Hey, they're
They've
doing something
actually,
right.
oh God, yeah, because every one of them's making more money than the last one.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're doing it right.
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to be doing another series based off of this. You
Oh,
got the ballerina, which will
yeah.
be
Right.
like a spin-off movie that should be released I think next year with Anna de Armas, and it's supposed
That's
to
right.
have John Wick in it as well. So
Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I love hearing news like that, man. It just feels like the spirit of the '80s and '90s are still alive, and that's awesome.
oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, as long as I mean, we've hit the age where we're missing that stuff, man, because we're not getting it like we used to. I mean,
No,
used
no,
to at the theaters, just like you said, it was all action. You'd have a
yeah,
few comedies, but for the most
right,
part, I can remember going and watching Demolition Man at the Dollar Theater like 10 times in a row. You know, it
yeah,
was
yeah,
insane.
yeah,
And I mean, that
yeah.
movie was just so balls out different than anything else. But
Yeah,
I just Wesley Snipes, one of Sandra Bullock's first roles. There's no way that movie would make it today, but it was a
no,
hit back then. That
right,
would be something that would be your movie of the month on Netflix nowadays.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but that
It
that
was
was a big
really
hit
fun
when we
too.
were coming up.
Yeah,
Oh, loads of fun. Yeah, just
yeah, I
loads
remember.
of it.
Yeah, I remember it would come on the TV, and I was like, "Oh, this again." And I would watch it, and I was just like laughing hysterically at these like ridiculous moments, and the whole seashell thing. And I was just like, "Oh
Oh
man, it's
yeah.
just so well written." I just love it.
And those little character moments, you know, like
Yeah,
where he finds out that when he gets fined for cursing,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
said, "I just figured out how to deal with a seashell thing." He keeps cursing and just collects the paper and goes back to the bathroom. You just
My
don't
my
get that stuff anymore, man.
No, and then one of my favorite parts was when Stallone sees I can't remember that actor's name, but he sees his like the one of his old like I guess buddies from the
Yeah.
from being in the police force, and they do that thing where they like like give each other props and they're talking to each other. And I remember was it Ron Schneider asked like Sandra Bullock like what's happening, and then I think Sandra Bullock says some like it's like straight males like attempting a very heterosexual like way of bonding with each other. It was just like, what? That's so like freaking hilarious.
Yeah. That movie was so ahead of its time. It
It
really
was,
was.
yeah, yeah. And also, it was cool to see Sandra Bullock throw kicks too. I was like, oh, whoa, like,
Yeah.
like they actually put that in there. She was like actually pretty good. So, and it's funny too because her career, uh, she's had like action films peppered throughout like the years, especially like recent too. And it's
Oh
cool
yeah.
to see that she actually is still keeping that up. Like she could be an action hero too. So
Definitely. Definitely.
yeah,
And what is it? Ben Affleck's ex-wife. She was just recently in Deadpool and Wolverine.
that's right. Jennifer
Jennifer
Gardner.
Garner. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
look at Electra. And
yeah.
then here in the last couple of years, that movie where she was like a vigilante. They killed her family.
Peppermint.
Peppermint. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I like
it's
Peppermint.
man, you can't beat movies like that. Those are a
No, you
no
can't.
brainer, man. You can just
Yeah,
sit down and just kick back, eat some
yeah,
popcorn, and enjoy the movie. You know?
yeah, yeah. I love them. I love them. They're my guilty pleasure.
Oh, definitely. So let's talk a little bit more about Joan. You're 2 issues in
Mm,
now. Do you have a complete arc planned? Is it
hmm.
going to be ongoing? How
Yeah,
kind of walk us through that? How many issues are you thinking
yeah,
on
yeah. So
Joan? Is it
this is
complete story or
yeah. So this is book 2 of 4, and
okay?
yeah. And so like when I was plotting it out, so the way I describe it is like each book has its own very significant, I guess, themes and like what it represents. So the first book is just purely the hook. It's just like here's a butt ton of action and here's the lay of the land. Here are all the characters and whatnot. And by the time you get to the second book, that's where the actual real like the meat, the heart of the story begins. And the way I always picture it is kind of like Kill Bill Volume 1, Volume 2. It's like Volume 2 still has the badass action, still has like the intensity of the first one, but it's very story driven. And
Right.
that's what volume 2 is of Joan. It's just like this is where the story begins. And
Gotcha.
And volume 3, I don't want to give too much away, but definitely volume 3 is
No, you don't have to spoil it, man. You tell us what you want to know.
okay. But yeah, definitely volume 3 is more of like Joan's struggles. You find out that it's not really quite a revenge story. There's something more to it. And then by volume 4, yeah, it is definitely like the big finale, because it is Joan. I always picture it as it's a medieval martial arts western, and
Oh wow.
it's western with a capital W because the end finale is going to be like the final big showdown. It's very much me trying to channel like Sergio Leone. It's like, how do I? And that's the thing. It's like, because I'm such a student of cinema, I look at the way Sergio Leone does stuff, and I'm like, how do I take what he did in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and then turn it into a martial arts showdown, but then also translate it into comic book form? And as I'm writing it, I'm kind of like I'm feeling like, oh, I'm not quite there yet. Oh no, but I gotta try it because the craft, man. I love the craft of writing these things. That's the thing. Each book that I write, it's teaching me something new. So that's why I just keep going. But in those 4 books, I really just want to like tell the story I want to tell. So yeah.
Gotcha. Stephen, I'd like to introduce you to Keith Morange. Keith Morange, Stephen. Keith is the peanut butter to my jelly. Hey.
Cool.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Hey, nice to meet you too. Oh, I might have some time. Oh,
Oh,
hold on a second.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. Hold on just a minute.
locked up.
What's going on, Jerry? What's going on, everybody?
Man, it's good to have you in, buddy.
Yeah, good to be here. And
Steve, try jumping out. I'll pull you out. And then you come right back in. Let's try that. Because he is totally lost him.
oh,
Just jump right back in, Steve.
what were you guys talking about?
Talking about his book, Joan, man. He's 2 issues in. Volume 2 just come out.
Cool.
He's got 2 more volumes coming soon. He released through Indiegogo for both of these. Man, we've been having a great conversation. How have you been doing, my friend?
Surviving in the AI attack, the AI invasion in the industry
I got you.
of of Hollywood, I guess. So
Right. Well, dude, your mic sounds awesome. You sound crystal
good.
clear. How am I coming through?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Good.
Yeah. So I haven't been live or much doing anything since last month. Last time we did this, I've just been working on the book and trying to book storyboard stuff. So just kind of surviving.
Right. I tell you, man, I've been loving the work you've been putting out. Those little posts. I love the one with
Thank
the
you.
alien. That's just God, dude. You make me sick. You really
Well,
I
look
see
at you.
some of that.
Look at you. Your style is evolving, man. I see that like in the new stuff for Bounty, and like you're continuing to push your growth and what you're putting out, and it looks good, man. Like
I appreciate it, man. I'm just trying to live up to all you guys. I
oh,
mean, because y'all, dude, you kill it,
you
man.
know what I mean is like, we've talked about this many times, and it's about being your best. You've got to run your own race when
Right.
it comes to
And play to your own strengths. Everybody has their own
it's
strengths.
everybody's running their own race. It's like, using a marathon as a metaphor. People aren't necessarily out racing each other. They're out to make their best time. You got 1,000 people or however many in the race, and everybody's just there. He is, and then
Welcome back, Stephen.
got to do their own best. They're running against themselves. And that's really what it is, especially with art, where it's so subjective. It's just like we got to satisfy what our vision is first before anybody else's. We're not the studios, we're not companies looking at taking polls and screenings and all that, and taking like what the audience wants and taking notes on that. We're doing what we want to do.
Exactly. Yeah, that's Steven was talking about storyboard, and he'd actually kind of went into that, and he kind of got out of that and decided to follow his dream of being an independent creator.
Awesome. How long? How long were you storyboarding for, Steve?
I storyboarded starting in 2010, I think. Yeah, I think it was 2010.
Oh, okay.
And I remember the first boards I did was it was for the United Nations Foundation, and they had this campaign they were trying to do. And that was like the first time I ever did it. I was just kind of like, oh, whoa, this is like really, really cool. I still appreciate the craft, but it was just needless to say, I got burnt a few times when I was in LA. So I was
Oh,
like,
for
okay,
sure.
I am. I can go a different direction.
Yeah. I mean, I know how you feel, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I talked to
Keith.
2014.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you doing what kind of storyboards are you doing? Are you doing ads or
Live
cartoons
action? So
Okay.
it's just anything from like ads and
Cool.
Music videos, TV shows
Cool.
sometimes, but it's
Oh,
pretty like in and out.
yeah.
I just did
Famous
one for 3
famous
days.
Super Bowl commercials, like the best one in the last Super Bowl.
Yeah, the mullets. It was for Kawasaki. It was like a mullet. The guys were growing the mullets, and the animals had mullets, and so yeah, that one I posted about. People saw that one, but
Oh, that's cool.
it's just like, oh, who cares?
Yeah. I know.
It's like commercials, like who cares? Everybody changes those.
Yeah, I know. It's really unfortunate too, because I always wonder what the full ad looks like. And I remember when I worked on it was like a joint collaboration between Toyota and not Nintendo, Nickelodeon. And I asked the director if I could see the full commercial, and I got like just the 5-second spot, and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, would have been nice to see the whole thing, but
Like before it came out, like so to draw what you were drawing. You mean?
no, sorry, I meant that like I did the storyboards, and then when they actually shot the commercial, it like was actually longer, but I only saw like it was like 5 or 8 seconds, and I was like, oh, 13 seconds actually.
Okay.
But it felt weird because when I was storyboarding for days, it was like a whole bunch of panels, and then when you turn it in, you're expecting, okay, it might be longer, but it wasn't really. It was 13 seconds.
Oh,
like,
there's
wow.
so many things that just get cut. I mean, it's just like a lot of people will overboard, as they like to say. They want to get all of their ideas, and I've gotten pretty good at just like, I know what's gonna be cut. Like,
that's good
when they say it, so I don't spend a lot of time, and I'm right every time. It's like, I was like, yeah, you're not gonna get this. You're not gonna do this.
Do you edit? Do you edit your own? Do you edit at all, like videos and whatever?
No, I have to do editing for a trailer though. I have to do a trailer for Skylights when I'm done.
Okay. Because I notice people who storyboard, but they also have that background editing. They tend to be like really, really good at knowing exactly like, okay, this is what's going to be cut.
It's funny. I was just talking about like the sense of like my sense of editing has grown because of comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because of like like when we're in such a short amount of space, we've got to like, it's economical, like we have a certain amount of room to be doing what we want, but it's not so much like we're independent. We could do as many pages as we want to, but when it comes to like, I got to get through this scene really fast, like I can't spend so much time on it because it slows down the story. It's like, so it's all, so we end up being an editor as well. I mean, that's what's so great about comics is like you got all these things going on.
Yeah, I was talking to actually the editor of Joan Volume 2 and Robert Romeo, awesome story writer, and it was his first time editing Volume 1, but like I was just like the notes he gave me was incredible. Anyway, he told me him and I were talking about it, and we discovered it's like when you do comics, it's interesting because the panels themselves feel like the storyboards, but the pages are the scenes. And so when people ask like, "Oh, how do you pace your books?" I always look at it as like, okay, how many pages do I need to really express this moment in the story? And usually what I notice is like, if for me at least, this is how I feel when I read a comic and like this specific dramatic moment, non-action wise, but maybe just a dramatic moment, if it like lasts about 5, 6, 7 pages, it's kind of like, oh man, I need to breathe.
Right. We've talked about that several times on the show, and it's hard to find the right flow. But if you don't get that, I mean, it's a story killer. I mean, folks, as attention spans are so much smaller nowadays. I don't know if it could be a little bit of everything from social media driven to just there's so much content out there. You've only got just a little bit of time to grapple, and if they get just the least little bit bored with you, they're done,
Right. Yeah.
So it's so important to have that flow. I mean, it's almost like a roller coaster. You got to have those lows, but then you got to be, as soon as you get to the bottom, you got to start building for your next high, and it's just constantly, and you got to find that, and you got to keep it,
Yeah, that's so interesting. I never thought about that wave. That would be interesting for like nerds of story writing, especially specifically comics. That'd be cool, like little diagram to use.
I'm sure they could go on for weeks.
Yeah,
they could do a multi-part show on something like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys: don't you think that's like instinctual to each storyteller?
I think it is. I really think it is.
Everybody has a rhythm. I mean, it's almost like a fingerprint.
Energy. Yep.
I mean, you see it in film directors pretty clearly, but I also see it in writers. You don't see a lot of writer artists out in the mainstream. So people either follow writers or artists or whatever, but you could tell everybody kind of has like their own kind of rhythm, their own kind of pacing sense. And I think it's very instinctual to each individual's personality, tendencies and things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was reading Frank Miller's The Man Without Fear, and it was so interesting.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, and I was like, why is this so interesting? And I read this review, and someone said it feels like a storybook, and I go, yeah, it actually does. Yeah, it's like he's training with stick, and then there's that double spread where they're like leaping across the rooftop. It just feels like, oh, this is like a moment out of I don't know what to describe it, but like a picture book or something. And it's just a simple story about how he grew up to be Daredevil. And you're like, oh, this is like beautifully written.
I'm pretty sure Frank did some of the layouts, if not all of them, for that. I remember reading that, or it was in the back of one of the reprints where they had, and you saw like Frank Miller's just really rough layouts, and then gave it over to John Romita Jr.
I'm pretty sure you're right. I think he did all the layouts for that.
So, I mean, right there, that's that writer artist rhythm. And like, if you look at, like, I just got the artist edition year 1.
Oh, wow.
That is like, as far as collections go, that is as tight as of a comic as you can.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel rushed. It's each issue is like 25 pages long. There's 4 issues, and it's like, that's it.
It's a perfect story,
and it's like a perfect comic between what Mazzucchelli was doing and Frank Miller was doing, like
Yeah.
somehow it just feels like one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a
Yeah.
very symbiotic relationship with that book. I mean, you could
Yeah.
tell they were just on point, man. They were in each other's head.
Have you guys read The Many Deaths of Layla Starr? You read that one yet?
I haven't read that.
What is that?
Yeah, that's
So that one is what's his name? Felipe Andrade, and then Ram V. Ram V is the writer. Andrade is the artist. Andrade's
Okay.
worked on like Wonder Woman. Ram
Mm-hmm.
V. I forget his credentials, but anyway, still an
Yeah.
awesome writer regardless. And it was so it's a story about like death, being punished for not being able to do her job, so she becomes mortal on Earth,
oh
and
wow.
because she's supposed to kill this baby who is supposed to uh she failed at killing this baby who would eventually create the formula for immortality.
Oh
And
wow.
it's very interesting because it's told over the story arc, and like I think it's like 4 chapters or something like that. I don't remember, but what I do remember is thinking to myself, wait, was this by the same person? And then like I looked at the cover and it's like, no, it's the writer and the artist. And I'm like,
Mhm.
that is so interesting because that's truly like a marriage. That's a marriage, like a really great marriage, because
Yeah.
the writer and the artist are like, I don't know, like you can miss each other. People miss each other all the time creatively.
Yeah.
But
Right.
when you have the writer and artist and they synthesize this thing together and they become one person, that's really tough to do. Like I
It's
don't
very
know.
rare.
Yeah, very
And
rare.
that's different than enjoying like working with each other. That's a
Right.
different thing. Like you
Yeah.
see people like they talk each other up and how much they love working with each other and
Yeah.
the collaboration
Yeah.
is fun. But that doesn't mean that you're getting that excellence. You're getting that flow going. You know?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
doesn't that's not the same thing. It
Yeah.
doesn't, like, you could be turning out really, and I can think of a few, you
Mhm.
know, from the mainstream that I've read over the years that are pretty tedious.
Yeah.
But it's
I agree.
it's and they love working with each other and all that. It's
Yeah.
like, man, I wish they would stop, because this artist needs to go and work with
Yeah.
another writer.
Yeah.
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 For instance, okay, I'm just gonna say it.
Say it.
Tom King and Clay Mann.
Oh,
He
God,
needs to
yeah.
let Clay Mann
Yeah.
go. Clay
Yeah.
Mann is an amazing artist.
He is.
Superheroes look like they're
He's the
supposed to
modern
look.
day Jim Lee.
He just put out a beautiful piece, and he said it was quick, and it looks like just draw quick all the time, man. And it was like
Yeah.
a Cable. It was for a Comic-Con.
Cable and the chick from not Vox Machina, but the one
Yeah.
from Netflix, the
Yeah.
blue-headed chick.
And I
Yeah.
would love to see, like, get away from the romance superhero stuff. I'm sick of that. And let Clay Mann draw some like real awesome comic stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that guy needs he needs something else, because he's great.
He's incredible.
He needs something juicy. And
Do you think I have some theories about that. Do you think it's
Yeah.
because some artists are so much in the visual that they don't really think sequentially? Which
Yes,
let me say-
absolutely.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, we see
I agree with that.
it's plagued. And since we're on this, I have to bring it up, because this is something that is like frustrating to see in modern comics today, is where I think American mainstream comics has lost its identity.
Yeah.
We have all of like imports from all over the world, and what is being pulled in and hired today in by the big two are like people's friends of friends, and it's not talent, it's not like skill, and we're missing out on, and I'm talking writers, I'm talking editors, like the whole thing.
Well, what
And
editors? I don't think they have editors
this era
anymore.
of mainstream comics will be forgotten.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be remembered, and you've got like a few like guys that are really good, like Clay Mann being one of them, and like there's the stories aren't worthy, you know.
Right.
We're not,
Jorge Jimenez. That's another one. Just
yeah,
oh
he's
my
good.
god.
He's good, but it's that style of coming in of that very much anime influence. Like anime is great, manga is great, but I'm talking about the loss of like a you know how they had style books of like how these characters, what they would look like and what they can and cannot do. Editors kind of protected these characters,
Yeah.
and now they're just like throwing stuff at the wall to see like what goes and what but we've got a lot of imports that are very influenced through animation and manga and anime, where we've lost that kind of like illustrative American style. What do you guys think? What is your opinion on that?
I do believe it's well, go ahead, Stephen. You're the guest, man. Go ahead.
Oh no, to me it's interesting because I grew up on manga, but I had a weird like I feel like the manga I liked is not the same manga
Definitely
as
not.
whatever's happening
Mm-hmm.
today, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because the manga I remember is that if you look at Katsuhiro Otomo, you look at Bronson, which he named himself after Charles Bronson, who did Fist of the North Star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are vastly two different styles.
Mm-hmm.
And Otomo was heavily influenced by Mobius, and so had a lot more European
Mm-hmm.
influences in his work. And then um, if you look at like the Fist of the North Star illustrator, I think it's Tatsuo Hara, I think is his name, but I remember his style heavily influenced by those artists before him, like Lone
Yeah.
Wolf and Cub, and and then before that, a lot of like brushwork, and I mean it was all very different.
Yeah.
So I felt like there was like character in that era,
Yeah.
and much like the comic books of like of America, it's like they also have their own little like uniqueness to them. But
Right.
now it's weird because
Right.
one of the things I noticed is that, and this probably could have started like all the way in the late 90s or early 2000s, but
Mm-hmm.
they took what was really popular, like this, like whatever this house anime style was,
Yeah.
and then they
Yeah.
like translated it over into American comics. And then it got even more weird because then they like evolved in this weird, I don't know what you would call it, but it's almost like it's whatever popular manga is, it just all of a sudden just solidified in American comics. And now, I mean, I guess it's a good thing, because it's coming from other places, but there's nobody really going like, I'm not going to look at whatever is around. I'm going to look at like the statue of like of I don't know of some like old like Renaissance painters. And then I'm gonna go look at like European comics, and then I'll look at some manga, and then
Yeah.
I'll like form my own style. It
Right.
just
Right.
it's weird. It's like maybe it's social media. Maybe it's
Yeah.
just we're wall scrolling and we're going, oh, that's the style, and then you copy that style. It's just weird. I don't know.
That's the problem, man.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is we do you remember? Do you guys know? Have you come across the famous artist courses from like the 60s and 50s? I mean,
Yeah.
these were
Yeah.
kind of like what the Joe Kubert
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
correspondence courses were.
Yeah.
But these were by every illustrator, that were lessons by every illustrator put together. I mean, Norman Rockwell,
Yeah.
Milton Caniff,
Yeah.
Wow.
just name it. There was it's just like basic fundamental illustrative drawing basics.
Yeah.
And if you want to find your style, that's where it comes from. And then
Yeah.
and what's happening today is people are learning to draw from style.
Right.
They're looking
Instead
at
of learning the
animation.
basics. Yep.
Yeah, and like all the answers are in life. You look at real life.
Exactly.
Like and throughout high school, me and my art buddies, we would carry a sketchbook with us. We were like, we wanted to be animators, and we drew everything. We sat. If I was waiting for a bus, I was drawing people standing there, going to the zoo, getting a zoo membership, and drawing animals. Really drawing from life.
Right.
And I think, like with social media and that incentive to draw something popular and get likes and get views, like that really is disrupting and influencing artists up and coming, and what they're learning, how they're learning. And I think this is what we're seeing mostly in
you're seeing that kind of
American
airbrushed type.
Well, I mean, it's mostly animation styles, and not illustrative styles. Like, where is that coming from? You know?
Yeah.
So that's frustrating to me as an artist and as also a comic fan. Like I really believe in like having at least like committing to like a foundation of like really learning all the time and really getting those basics down. It's like, so you can draw what you're be as close to your imagination and vision as you can be. Like, that should be the goal, right?
Yeah.
So
and I also feel like it's like how open you are to art history.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Peter Chung talking a lot about how Eon Flux was influenced by the works of Egon Schiele, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I remember like researching that, going like, oh wow, okay, if you ever need to see where the influence comes from, that was it right there. But then like Egon Schiele had that relationship with Gustav Klimt, and Gustav Klimt did it on like an epic scale. And then you're like, oh my god, like the way he renders and the way he elongates form, and he knows how to cartoon, like make certain parts of the painting very much like a cartoon, and other parts were like hyper, like realistic. But it's like if you actually read that history and you're open to it, you actually do absorb a lot more technique, style, or just technique, and your style comes out as a byproduct of it.
Yes,
right,
absolutely.
That's what most people forget. Style is mistakes. I mean,
it's covering mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, from you got to learn the basics before you can make mistakes. And your certain style is, hey, maybe your arms are a little more elongated than a normal arm would be. That's your style. Most people they overlook that nowadays. But just like you said, Keith, it's being driven by social media. It's people are jumping on this animated style and kind of going from that instead of getting the foundation that we used to from the get-go. I can remember, same thing in high school. Just I carried a sketchbook. I drew constantly, and I can remember even before that in junior high, when my mother realized that I was not going to quit this doodling mess, she went out and bought me anatomy books, how to draw anatomy and how to draw this and that. And, I started studying art books and checking art books out from the library and just learning all different kinds of art.
Right. And I mean, I keep all these right by my desk when I'm drawing. And they're small, they're small, but if you need like a quick, like, whoa, what's this muscle on this arm over here? You got it. And they're really small and it's cheap. It's $10. And I just I keep it by my desk just in case. And it's like, you'd be surprised, like one little line can be all the difference to making something look so much better than what you were bullshitting, putting down, you're lying, you're fucking around, you're lying right now.
Yeah,
you need to,
I can hide this.
Like I
don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm gonna throw this line in there, and they'll automatically just assume it's I meant to do that.
I'm like, oh man, I just cheated the reader off on this page. I'm erasing this. I'm starting over. I'm gonna draw this right. Yeah.
So Stephen, let me ask you this before I know you give us a certain amount of time. You went with Indiegogo. What? One of the big things, Kickstarter is kind of the main thing. What made you decide to go the Indiegogo route versus Kickstarter? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. So the thing with me is that I'm a really big advocate of just really trying to figure it out on my own. Okay, gotcha. So short story, long story, I'm trying to condense it. I remember, so used to compete in kickboxing,
Okay.
and so one of the things I remember a coach saying was, she got really annoyed because what would happen is she would teach something, and then the other coaches would do exactly that, but then they would add more lessons, and it would piss the crap out of her because she could tell the beginning students were like, their brains were fried. You're telling them like all these like, you're like, no, pivot here, no, your waist has to be like this, no, you punch like. She was like, no, you tell them like three things maybe, and then you f off and let them figure it out on their own. So
Yeah.
my whole thing was is that it's overwhelming now because we're talking about social media, right? It's just we live in this
Yeah.
age of hyper information awareness. So I was
Definitely.
yeah, I was obsessed with like trying to figure out, okay, like, which one's the right platform. And then I really had to sit there and I was just like, okay, what is it that you like right now about either one of them? And it was just the fact that you can keep your funding even if you don't make it all the way. And
Gotcha.
it was getting crazy. I had friends who were like, no, man, like, they like represent the devil. And then like this one side is like, no, man,
Yeah.
don't go with the liberals. And then one side is like, no, they're all right. I was like, dude, I don't know. I don't want to talk
Right.
about that, And I was just like, what is it that appeals to me? And then finally, I just settled on the fact that, hey, you can keep your funding even if you don't fully fund.
Yeah.
And but that's all I really knew about it. I was like, I'm gonna try it, and I did try it, and it was successful. And I was like, okay, am I gonna go to this next year or next time I do it? No, because I'm gonna actually try Kickstarter now. But I
Yeah.
need to know for myself so that because one of the things I really love, and one thing I noticed, and it aggravates me so much, is that I didn't have a mentor. I never had a mentor, and
Me either.
I noticed when I had questions, it was like I was like brushed off. It was like, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to answer your questions.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I started doing was I started creating this like workshop for people of like, hey, if you're really interested, you need to ask, and I will like I might not know everything, but I can try to point you in the right direction, or I could just help you
Right.
answer. And that was my thing. Is like now I know about Indiegogo. Cool, I can like address some questions about it.
Cool.
And at the end of the day, it was just like, yeah, I know more now than I did, a year or 2 years ago. And I remember like 10 years ago, I was nervous about the whole experience of crowdfunding. But now I'm like, it's actually, I wouldn't say it's effortless, but it definitely is not scary. It's just kind of like,
Right.
okay, I know what to expect now. So, and for me,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's really just you got to put in your effort and you still have to put it somehow, regardless of the
Yeah.
platform. That's the scary part.
What I like about Indiegogo is the in demand. You could leave it in demand after the campaign ends.
Yeah.
And
That's where I picked his book up at. The
there you
campaign
go.
had finished,
Right? That's
and
why I want to
I
use
just jumped in demand. It was so easy too. I loved
Yeah.
it.
It's an easy
Yeah.
platform to use. I really like the fact that, yeah, you have the in demand. And then one of the things that I appreciated was that some people had some, what do you call that? They wanted rewards, but they wanted to customize it. And I don't know if Kickstarter does this, and if it does it, okay, cool. But I'm just talking about from Indiegogo because that's what I know. And one of
Right.
the things I could do was like I did customize some things for people because people had already previously bought Volume 1. So they were like, do I need a Volume 2, whatever? And I was like, I just customize it, and it actually worked out. And so I'm glad
Gotcha.
that Indiegogo has that because, again, I just feel like whatever advice that people give, it helps, but it's also very specific to where they were coming from. For me, I had already done the work. Like 7 years prior, I was already making and self-funding Joan. This time around, I have 2 books. I don't have the money to raise it, so I need to ask people for help, and that's what it was. So.
Right. Yeah. I know it. Very few people when I first got into this 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, what little bit that I know now, I basically YouTubed and
Mhm.
I went out and did the work myself and found it because, like you said, everybody would just kind of shrug me off, like, "Hey, newbie, go figure it out."
Right.
And that's what I've tried to do with this channel, and even with my Instagram that people I've met. Hey, if you don't know, reach out, man. I'll be
Right.
glad to help.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I don't know it all, but I know what I figured out and what I
Right.
had to do to get there. And I want to make it easy for folks. It shouldn't be, there shouldn't be gatekeeping in this.
Yeah.
One of us does well, all of us do well. That's just the
Yeah.
way I look at it.
Yeah.
So to hell with the gatekeepers, man.
Right.
There's a new crowdfunding. It's called Fund My Comic. Have you guys heard about that?
I've heard about it. I haven't looked into it yet, but
And
I've heard
they
of
take
it.
a lower percentage than Indiegogo or Kickstarter.
Oh, wow.
What's it called?
Yeah.
Fund your what?
Fund My Comic.
Fund
Oh,
my
wow.
comic.
That's easy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
I was listening to that one day, and I'm considering that too.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to look
We'll
into
see.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Fund My Comic. And I tell you what, I'm with my next book, I'm looking at doing multiple, because
Oh, like yeah.
yeah, I mean, just shoot my shot, I mean, what I got to lose? Do it for set my goal on Kickstarter, set my goal on Indiegogo, because people are tribal. I mean, you guys know this. There are certain folks that they're only gonna pledge on Indiegogo. They're not. It's kind of like Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah.
I only drink Pepsi,
Right.
or I only drink
Yeah.
Coke. It's the same way with these platforms. I mean, you crisscross. I think you've got a better chance of reaching a wider audience that you might not have reached if you hadn't have done that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at doing multiple platforms with my next launch.
I
think that's
anything wrong
really
with that.
Yeah, I think that's cool because I don't know. I learned something like I mean, it's not like new or anything, but for me, it's like one of the biggest discoveries was that people are always telling me what types of platforms to get on. Like I'm sure you guys got it too, right? I mean, we get NFTs, we get like get on this social media,
yeah, God,
right?
yeah.
Right, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
my whole thing is right. People can use this platform to buy your stuff, but the biggest equation is how do you get people's attention? Like
Right.
you could use as many platforms as you want. You could be on Facebook, you on social media, you can be on Instagram, you could be whatever. But what's the thing that's gonna make people go, oh yeah, oh you're making that thing? Oh, let me go over there and check it out. I think that's paramount to everything, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's, we've said it in this show. There's so much out there. So how do you set yourself apart? How do you do that? And one thing I've noticed here lately, Meta has kind of come against creators too. They're really pushing, buying these ads. You have to be real careful with your wording when you do like a ad post for Kickstarter or Indiegogo, or they're going to flag you and they're going to pull that post.
That's crazy.
And if you get so many, like Kenny, he lost some of his stuff because he got flagged so many times, and he couldn't do his stories for so long, and he got ghost banned and shit like that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I remember trying to post some stuff too on Instagram during the campaign, and Instagram would not let me post anything.
Yeah.
And then I remember I got a message back saying that I had violated some service because my post is suspicious. And I was like, okay, dude, this is ridiculous.
They're wanting you to buy an ad. That's what it comes down to. They figured out a way to capitalize on this and bring more money in, and they're gonna run it in the ground.
You know what I think about that is then fuck them and just do lives. Do like what we're doing now and push people's campaigns that way, whether it's here on YouTube or Rumble or wherever the hell it has to be. Whatever new pops up and circumvent that. You know, it's like, who needs it?
There's
Yeah,
You know?
I've been
That's
hearing a
one.
lot of people. I'm sorry. I was just
No,
gonna
go
say
ahead, Steven.
I heard a lot of people with that sentiment too. Like, there's been a lot of artists who are like, I'm leaving Instagram to
Yeah.
really use YouTube, and
Right.
it actually makes a lot of sense because YouTube is basically TV. It's like it's become
Yeah.
TV
Yeah.
now, and people
Yeah.
interact with that. But like social media is just like or Instagram specifically. It's like what happens there? You know, like I don't
Right.
understand it.
Right. You get lost in the sea of shit, basically.
It is a sea of shit.
Between the
Sea shit.
ads and between the ads and all the other crap on there.
Yeah.
I remember when you could get on here and just see art. You know what happened to
Yeah.
that?
That was
Well,
nice. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
What-
I'm so like, I'm at the end of my book where I'm drawing it, and I'm a little obsessed. I'm a little obsessed now, and I'm going hard on the hours that I'm putting into it and the frequency that I'm doing it, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it, and I don't care about audience or like posting
You're doing it
certain
for
amount of
you.
times.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just want to be proud of what I'm doing and put it out there. And like, if people find it like 3 years from now, I couldn't care. I really don't anymore. You know, I've gone through the anxiety and the panic modes of like trying to figure out like, oh man, how am I going to get people to see this, and how am I going to like let people know about it? Nobody cares, blah blah. I'm so tired of that roller coaster, you know. And it's like, I just want to do something that I'm proud of. I want to tell the story the way I want to tell it, and I want to put it out in a quality way, and that's it. Like that's really it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'm not after a Netflix deal. I'm not after like 1 million
Yeah.
followers.
Yeah.
I love the art of comic books. I love
Yeah.
the art of the page. I like, this is what I've set out to do. I committed when I was 14 years old. I said, you know, like Bruce Wayne vowing at his parents' grave, you know, this is what I'm going to do.
I
And
will
I'm
make
still
a comment.
busting my ass trying to do it. You know, it's
So
like,
instead of the bat coming through the window, right? Like you're sitting there.
Somebody threw a comic book through the window.
Yeah, it's a comic. Yeah.
Yeah, wrapped around a brick. Yeah. Wow, that's
No, man,
awesome.
I do. I totally I get you on that, because I remember reading a Jake Parker newsletter, and he was talking about this. There was this artist who was a commercial artist, and everyone knew her, and then all of a sudden she just dropped off the face of the earth, and then they found
That
her
happens a lot.
eventually. Yeah, and they found her eventually, and this one interviewer was like, how come you like dropped off the face of the earth? And like, what did it do for your art? And she goes, number one, I never drop off the face of the earth. I just stopped making myself like about me. And then number two, the fact that I like tapped out of this like whatever commercial realm and actually ended up being more creative. And I was
Right.
like, wow, that's so awesome to hear.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, Jerry knows I dip out like so many times. I'll go like weeks, and he'll be like, "Hey, are you still alive? Like, are you okay?"
Yeah.
He'll message me, you know, and I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm good." Like, I just like I disappear, and I'm just focusing, like, because I need to
Yeah,
be
locked in.
I'm protecting
Yeah.
myself. I'm protecting
Yeah.
my creativity.
Yeah,
You know, I
that's
need
great.
to like get the hell away from the bullshit and
Yeah.
focus on like you know, leveling up or
Yeah.
getting my story
Yeah.
right and drawing it right. And that's what I care about. That's what I'm in this for, you know?
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
it.
I hate to wrap this thing up but Steven told me before we started, he said, "Look, I got about an hour."
Oh, okay.
It's fine. Sorry, Jared. I just checked the time. I could do another like 15 minutes. It's fine.
Hell yeah, we'll go then. We'll go then.
Awesome.
Hell
I like
yeah.
talking to you guys. You guys are cool.
Everybody tell your wives, tell your families, 15 more minutes.
Yeah, 15 more minutes. But yeah, man, I was just curious, because I was like you when I first got into this. I looked at both platforms, and I was like, I was leaning hard towards Indiegogo to start with, and then I got to talking to more people, and I got to just looking, on Instagram, Kickstarter this, here's another Kickstarter, here's another Kickstarter, and it seemed to be the more primary thing, and I was like, well, hell, everybody else is doing it. There must be something to it. So I've been on Kickstarter every one of my campaigns so far, but yeah, I really wanted to branch out because I know people are tribal, and I want to see, what it does on Indiegogo.
How's your experience on Kickstarter?
Sorry?
How was your experience on Kickstarter?
Man, the last Kickstarter was a journey. I'll put it like that. Now, everyone before that, man, most of my campaigns first 24 hours funded, and then I had 29 days to just kind of build on that. The last one took a little over a week, and then I've run into people that it's took their entire time to get funded. Kickstarter become a very weird place right now. Some things, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. I mean, it's stuff that's done $8,000 and $10,000 in the past. I'm seeing barely making $4,000 or $5,000 now. I think there's just so much there. I really think that's what it is. Because most of your mainstream, and God bless them. I mean, hell, they started out as independent creators. So when Sean Gordon Murphy jumps on Kickstarter or David Finch jumps on Kickstarter, I don't get pissed off like most folks, because at the end of the day, hey, they started out just like we did,
Yeah.
So they got followers. Whoop-de-doo. We'll get there too eventually, if we stay with this long enough. A lot of creators are kind of pissed because they're kind of going towards Kickstarter, but I mean, hell, they're trying to get the most bang for their buck too. They're cutting out the middleman. So they've been getting screwed by Marvel and screwed by DC, making millions off of them. Why not go out and get your money?
You watch, the real flex is going to be like just barely making it. Just getting funded. That's going to be the real flex. I only got 20 people reading my book.
Yeah.
It's rare.
Yeah, I wonder about that too. Speaking of like Marvel and DC on screwing people over, like I remember watching the recent Flash movie, and Batman's on that motorcycle, right? And I was like, oh, that's the Sean Gordon Murphy motorcycle. And I remember Sean Gordon Murphy posting about it, and I was like, is there money? Like, that's weird.
No.
Yeah, see? That's weird.
Making millions of dollars off of artists, So, when he went out and, let's see, he bought the rights to Zorro, and here recently through his his new imprint, is it Massive Publishing?
I don't
think it is.
Somebody he teamed up with.
Okay, well, regardless, they bought the rights to Zorro, and I think it was last year. Yeah, that campaign come out, and I jumped on it. That wasn't his first one. I think Plot Holes was his first one. Is that right, Keith? I think you jumped on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, that was during the pandemic, and he was on Indiegogo for that. And I don't know, like, people get, like you said, pretty crazy about like Indigo. If you're everything's like so political, and it's like,
why does everything got to be political? We're all just people, man. Who gives a shit?
Well, I'm pretty sure we all came up from the time where like none of that shit mattered to us.
Exactly.
It's like, if you have disagreements, you just like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah, exactly. We'll
go ride bikes.
Yeah, exactly.
speaking of which, this weekend I did Lake Tahoe Comic Con, and
Okay.
that was a weird. I know. I don't think they advertised that show very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like random randos just coming in, and the first. Well, it wasn't really an attendee. It was actually a person that was working the booth. There was a booth across from us. Absolutely
Mhm.
freaking bizarre. We didn't know what the hell they were advertising. It was like they had a bookstore, then the poster said "Come draw with us," and then there's a table full of kids drawing, and then there
Okay.
was some comics, and I was like, I don't know what's going on.
It
And
was
then
all
there's
over
this
the
old,
place.
yeah, it was all over the place. And anyway, there's a guy there, this weird old dude, looked like something out of a Seinfeld episode, and
Yeah.
I just see either Newman or Kramer standing.
yeah, yeah, and it was
Oh,
just weird. He was like he was talking to me about like miso soup, and I was like, okay, dude, like I get it. I get what's happening here. And then later on, I found out from my friend that dude wanted me to fix his laptop because he said, oh, the Asian guy can like fix the laptop, right? He's good at that.
Whoa.
oh my God.
I was like, wait,
Wow.
what? And then it
What?
was weird because right
That's
after that,
bullshit.
there was this dude who like was telling me how like he hates like woke things. I'm like, why'd you start that topic with me? Like, what did I say? Like,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, how's it going?
How
But
did we get there? Yeah.
yeah, and it was weird. It was one after another, and then this like lady came over and told me how she didn't like the live action Cowboy Bebop because there was an agenda, and I was like, my brain tapped out. I was like, I can't do this.
God.
How do you guys feel about like being a fan of something like the original Star Wars, and then like Mark Hamill getting like really political, or somebody coming
Man.
out? Does that ruin it for you, or are you able to like still enjoy the thing?
I can separate it.
Me too.
Me
Yeah.
personally.
So I love Jackie Chan movies. I love
Yeah.
that
Oh
man's
God, yeah.
body of work so much. But over the years, he said some really fucking crazy shit. And I was telling my wife, I go, the Jackie Chan that we have in America is a far different Jackie Chan when he's in Asia. Because in
Okay.
Asia, he talks a lot of crap.
Oh wow.
It's
Come
amazing.
on.
Yeah, and it's just like he's not Mr. Funny Man. He's actually really, really like radical. And
Oh wow.
he'll say some stuff about he'll say stuff about America. He'll say stuff about like my own home country of Taiwan. He'll just say whatever. And
Wow.
Yeah.
and so I was getting worked up, and then I was like, no. I was like,
Yeah.
that's really who he is. The guy that I like is the guy who got kicked into like a pit of coal, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he actually did that. The guy who jumped from one building to another.
Mhm.
That's the guy that I'm gonna remember, not this guy. This guy is like,
Right.
I have to separate that, or else I'm not gonna watch any of his movies, and I don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Separating the art from the artist. It's getting to be something you have to do with basically everything.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think I'm gonna blame this on social media.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
it's between social media and just the media in general. It's like they're
Mhm.
pushing this divisive narrative,
Yeah.
you know, and just trying to separate people. I just don't
Right.
understand it.
Yeah.
You know, we used to look over this bullshit, and
Yeah.
it's like people are so I don't. It's like they're going around with blinders on, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it's almost like they're just okay. Well, I read this on social media, so it's got to be true. And like you
Yeah.
said, you know, y'all are the devil. You know, you said
Yeah.
that about
Yeah.
one of the
You go,
sites.
go.
I mean, people.
Yeah.
It's literally like what is happening to our society as a whole, and it's not just in America; it's everywhere. It's worldwide, man.
Well,
I don't get it.
Yeah, I saw once on a post. It was like stupidest thing. I was just like, okay, like what art material would be better to paint? And one person said, use a chisel tip like parallel pen. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then another person said, well, you're a freaking idiot because you should be using a brush pen. And I went, okay.
Oh wow!
And it became this
Man,
argument.
God.
And I was like, what happened?
Yeah, what
Like-
happened? We're talking about drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
are we arguing?
Just drawn. I mean,
What just
really, like it on social media, you could say, "What a beautiful day out! I'm having a great day," and you'll get somebody who's
You're
like,
wrong.
"How could you say that when there are people
Yeah.
suffering in the world and having a terrible day? Some people don't have
Yeah.
a beautiful day." You know, they'll just be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
really what it's like. Come down to it. Hey, AJ,
Yeah.
cool.
Or they'll tell you you're wrong because I'm not having a good day.
Because
So
of
that's why you're
whatever.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
And
Yeah.
like, I really use it as an exercise of like, you know, it's like a muscle, you know, where you have to train yourself not to care what people think.
He's testing it out. He said,
You know,
it's a good day,
You have
bro.
to.
Hell no. It's all hell's breaking loose.
You have to like really train that muscle in your brain to like not give a fuck what people, because there's always going to be somebody to disagree with what you're doing or have a problem with what you're doing, because we have such a wide reach now. You know, I mean, look at Hollywood. I mean, like stars used to be private and mysterious. You didn't know anything about them. Now with social media, that's completely different. You know, everybody knows everything about everybody.
I mean, just look at football, guys, and Taylor Swift. I mean, come on. Yeah. Now it's the Taylor Swift show. Hey, it can't just be a football game now. You know, we gotta get viewership. Hey, what's Taylor wearing today, Bob? I mean, come on.
She looks like she's having a good day, John.
Looks like a good day, John. Yeah,
let's go back to that first down.
Yep. Wow.
So yeah, I guess be separating people's personal feelings about things is just something that's par for the course now. You know, of like what they're like. You know, because everybody has a soapbox now. We can all express like how we feel about different things, but it's like everybody isn't one thing all the time. It's like we're all like we all do bad things, we all do good things, and we're proud of some things, and we learn and we grow, and we should still be able to enjoy, you know, the things that we liked or like just because somebody has an opinion or speaking out, you know. I think we have to separate it. That's how I feel anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
well, you're wrong.
Well, that's fine. That's totally fine.
You both wrong. Here's what really happens. No,
I'm okay
Steven,
with being wrong.
Man, what I do, I post my stuff and I run, basically.
Yeah, right. I know. Like, I don't want to look at it.
And I tell you, I'll scroll through. I spend a little time on there every day. And hey, if I like it, I'm going to do my best to reach out to the creator, because I know how much it means to me to get those little comments. You know, it's one thing to get 50 likes or 100 likes. That takes like 10 seconds. But for somebody to actually put forth the effort to jump in and leave a comment, you don't know what that did for somebody's day. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes there's no time, and you got to go, and you got to just hit like.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah,
you're on your phone. You're not supposed to be on your phone. But you saw that thing, and you got to hit it. You know, that's fine.
Right. I mean, totally get that.
Really, that's part of like what I was saying is like you got to like if somebody compliments it, like I'm ready for the insult or the critique, and I'll just be like, because it's the same thing to me. Like I'm at the point where it's just the same thing. Either one. Thank you. I'm glad like you like it. Thank you. Thanks for telling me what you thought. You know, like it's not that it's like doesn't mean anything. It's just that it's like if you believe, like if one thing means so much to me, then the other is going to mean a lot to me, and I don't want to give that much power into like what people are kind of saying while they're on the can, you know.
I get that. Yeah,
you know, it's like
someone told me once that it's a real problem already that you're like getting all this opinion, but it's another it's also another bigger issue if you're actually reading this wall of opinion. Like you're just, it's like one video or one post, whatever, and then you're just reading this wall. You're basically like, it's like empty calories. If you're trying to do your
Yeah.
best to not eat junk food,
Mhm.
why are you letting junk thoughts in your brain? So
Right.
Right.
remember that. Really,
I mean,
important.
I've not hit that problem where I have like that kind of following or that kind of comments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can imagine like, it being a problem psychologically for people who are so popular, famous celebrities,
Yeah.
where they just can't,
Self-esteem
they
issues.
can't read the
Yeah.
comments,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
on the off chance they'll get that one really negative thing and get in their head. That's
Right.
what I mean, guys. And it's just like we got to like protect our that very sensitive artist that's living inside of us that has all that creative stuff that's trying to come out. It's like a little kid, because you gotta kind of like train that where like, thank you for the compliment, thank you for the insult. It's the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's like, but what matters is being proud of what I did. Like, I executed
knowing
it best
you
I could
did
at the
everything you needed to do to get it right. Yep.
Yeah.
I get that.
Absolutely.
Well, dude, Steven, we're to that point again. Hey, go ahead. I'm not going to ask you for any more time. I appreciate every second you've given us tonight, man.
No, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys.
Where can they reach you? Where can they, get your stuff? I'm gonna post everything in the links too.
Cool.
But
yeah, my I'm highly active on social media. Well, mostly the stories. Just trying to show people what I'm doing right now. Like with shows and whatever. It's more like behind the scenes stuff. And my website is sydstudiopresents.com.
Gotcha.
That's where you can get access to Joan. So
Gotcha, man.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out and follow you.
I can't wait to see these books, man. Like I said, I've been following from afar for a little bit, and I love what you're doing. I can't wait to see what you got coming down the pike. Best of luck with the Asian Invasion show, man. Such a pleasure to have you on, Steven. Guys, Keith, thank you for being a co-host, even if you were late. Better late than never. But anyway, I completely get it, man. I'm just messing with you. But anyway, that's the show, you guys. Until next week, hey, you guys have a blessed one.